So now we're going to try to make our own Matisse collage. And there are some objects that you are going to have to collect and gather. You're going to need a pair of scissors. You're going to need some glue. You're going to need a white paper that you can glue things onto. And when we do this project in the art class, I always give everybody colored paper. But some of you might not have colored paper at home. I do have a stack of colored paper, so I'm going to show you how to use the colored paper if you want to use colored paper, but a lot of you don't have that. So you have to find papers in other ways. Some of you probably are going to be able to find a lot of cool wrapping paper, like this is wrapping paper right here, or wrapping paper that looks like this that has cool patterns on it, or wrapping paper that looks like this. Maybe you have Christmas wrapping paper, maybe you have birthday wrapping paper. All those wrapping paper things are going to be fine. Also, if you have a calendar and you have cool pictures in the calendar that you want to use, you can use calendar paper too. You also can use paper from magazines. So if you find a picture in a magazine that has a pretty flat looking surface, you can use that too instead of using something that has writing all over it. These probably turn out better. So try to find some papers that look interesting to you that you can use for this project. And here is how how Matisse did it. This is actually a picture of his when he was an older man, and he was actually doing cutting with scissors because it made his hands stronger. And he would make beautiful collages out of cut paper. And this is basically what you are going to be doing on this project. So here's how it happens. Let's say I do have colored paper, and I take a piece of colored paper, and I cut out a square from it. So if I cut a square from this piece of paper, and then I take the square and I fold it in half, if I do cutting on the folded side, you probably already know when I open it up, it's going to be exactly the same on both sides. So let me take my scissors and cut on the folded side and just cut out a shape. So I'm just going to start cutting. I don't know what I'm cutting. I haven't drawn anything. I'm just going to start cutting. So I'm just going to cut and cut and cut around and around, kind of like kind of like Matisse did, all the way around like this until I get to the end of the fold and cut it off. Then when I open it up, you'll see it's exactly the same on both sides. But this part actually turns out to be pretty cool too. And so does this one. So this one is made from this one. And notice when I put it down on the white paper, the shape is actually what we call the positive space. And this inside is called the negative space. So positive shape, negative space. And the negative space is going to be really an important part of this project, but the positive shape is going to be important too. Now watch what I can do with this one. If I fold it up again and I cut on the fold again, and I don't want to cut anything off. I just want to keep cutting inside on the fold, and I keep cutting around like this. When I'm done and I cut back to the fold, it looks like this. Now I have a positive shape, a negative space, a positive shape, a negative space, a positive shape. And I could make my whole paper out of this one little square practically, but then I want to add other things too. So I could add another piece of paper, but I think I'm going to add this. So I'm going to cut a square where the flower is, or maybe a rectangle. Cut a rectangle, and then I'm going to fold it, and then I'm going to cut on the fold. So I'm going to cut, and I don't know how I'm cutting, but I'm just going back and forth and around, maybe go in and kind of come out. Notice there are two pieces of paper here, so I have to make sure I'm cutting through both pieces of paper and go around and down and around and get back to the fold. And then when I open it up, it looks like this. Pretty cool. But look at this one. This one's cool too. So there's a lot of negative space and positive shape. And then I can just take my glue and put my glue on the back of whatever shape I want to glue down first. Usually it's these outside ones that I like to glue down first because they're squares on the edges. And so they fit right into the corners of the paper. So let me see how this one's going to fit right into the corner of the paper. Right like that. I'm going to fit it right into the corner like that. And then I have my positive shape, which is the red, and my negative space, which is the white. And then I can take the next one and glue it down. And when I glue it over like this, look at all those negative spaces in between. I've made all these tiny little negative spaces now. Instead of this one big negative space, look what happens when if I glue it down like this. Then I'm creating all these little negative spaces like that, which make it look kind of cool. And when you squint at it, the negative space comes up to your eyes so that the white kind of pops out at you. And that makes it interesting too. And I kind of like these papers being cut out of different magazines and calendars because they give it a whole new feel to it. Instead of just being colored paper like we used to always do, this makes it look even kind of more interesting. So now I'm going to fold this one back up again and cut into this one again. Wow, what am I going to come up with this time? Cut into it, cut into it, cut into it. Go up and around and down and over. And when I'm done, this is what I have now. Wow, really cool looking. Very cool. And look at this one. Wow, really cool. Cool, positive shape. But then when I glue it down, it's going to make all these negative spaces around. And when you're done, your paper might look something like this. Now, this one has some interesting negative spaces all around, but the shapes themselves are pretty cool too. Or how about this one? Wow, some pretty cool shapes themselves, but cool negative space too all around. And this one has been cut out of more animal shapes. This is supposed to be part of an elephant. This is part of a tiger or a leopard. This is part zebra. Wow, these are cool papers. Now, when you get done with doing this, this could be the end of the project and they turn out really beautiful. But in our project at school, we always took that negative space and we wanted to make that negative space as important as the positive shapes themselves. So we went back in and with marker put in all kinds of different patterns in between. And if you do that, yours could turn out to look like this, where every different white space has a different pattern on it. Even tiny ones have a different pattern on it. Or if you don't have markers at home and you just have a black pen, you could do that same thing with just a black pen. Go back and put in all these cool patterns in between. So it's going to be up to you. Do you want to make it really patterned, or do you want to make it patterned with really interesting negative space that just stays negative space? Both ways turn out to be cool, and I'm going to suggest you maybe do one of each. Make one like this, and then make one like this. Pretty cool project. Thanks, guys. See you later.